Hey guys, so I thought I would do an interesting video tonight, but I wrote down actually on my list of the top 12 dangerous animals in Africa. Now, yes, I included the big five on here, but I included some other animals I did a lot of research about. Some that might surprise you that like actually they're aggressive. I mean, I'm gonna state that aggression there's ways an animal can be aggressive or show kind of like how we can turn from possibly being the nicest person in the world, or we either show a negative or aggressive behavior when sometimes things don't go our way, somebody invades our personal space, um anything, or we're feeling our space is being violated. Well, some of these animals actually so what I did was I got together animals that attack humans, but also any kind of, actually really not so much all the animals on this list necessarily, but I can only count one animal on here that will attack through primal instinct. And unfortunately, it has to do with people having to live off the food this animal also lives on. And also they have to share the waterways with this animal. And I would even count this animal more dangerous than a hippo, from what a lot of people in Africa would say about these animals. Because the thing is, hippos, yes, they kill a lot of people, and it's estimated they kill a lot of people every year. But the thing is, if you were to into a town or a fishing village, sometimes you don't really see hippos until you actually go out on a canoe or a boat. Whereas these animals that actually, they're not number one on my list, but they almost made number one. Actually, you know what? I'm on. I have them listed originally as number six, but I am gonna change that. I'm I'm gonna let them because some of these animals I had to share with another animal in the same spot because it's just hard. There's a lot of species. Africa's like the best place on planet Earth to witness these animals defend, um uh obviously protect their young, protect their families, as we would do as humans, from possible threats. Obviously through mating season, um again, if we're feel I mean, it's the same thing with people. If we feel attacked or somebody's getting in our grill, they want to fight, we can defend ourselves. So a lot of these animals show danger in the way of defense, breeding, um, mating is a big one, um, and not just through danger through wanting to kill everything in sight, because that's not animal attention as far. Because if yes, there's animals that kill people, but there's a reason why they do it. They don't choose to do it because they want to pick us off. It's usually because when they're injured, it's because of us. And we're the result in why these animals harm us because we want to harm them. But these animals, I even have some honorable mentions that didn't make the list, but I feel like these honorable mentions are good ones because, some of these don't use a, don't bite. Most of them do, but I've got a couple reptiles on my honorable mentions list. I've got an antelope. I've got, I would say, one of the largest rodents that we have globally, actually, between Africa, the US. So we have a species of this animal in Maine. Um, and then we have a another hoofed animal, but I thought I would start with my honorable mentions list first and then go on to the list. Now, I often research these animals and make sure that I read everything from what is fact, from what is fact and what is like what stands out. Because as I said, animals will defend and get aggressive when it comes to protecting family, meaning their young, the herd, which is based off of territory. Um, but these honorable mentions, I feel like, hold a close place in my heart for African wildlife. But we have number one, we have the eland. So an eland is a species. Actually, they're the largest antelope in Africa. There is cases again of where this animal can be aggressive, but it's typically when there's a threat or they think something's coming. Really, if you pose a threat or there's a predator, you know, apprehending the parents with a young, eland will act aggressively by thrusting their horns outward. But they are the largest species of antelope in Africa. But as I said, um, so eland are, yep, they're the world's largest antelope, but they defend themselves or attack when threatened. So when they feel threatened, um, they use their massive weight up to 1 ton and long, sharp spiral horns to gore or crush predators and threats. They are generally docile but can be highly aggressive, utilizing powerful kicking and charging tactics to injure attackers such as lions or even humans. They are capable of delivering fatal kicks to predators like lions, often targeting the head. But they are dangerous when cornered or threatened, as evidenced by reports of fatal interactions with humans in managed environments. So, yeah, these antelope, as I said but it says when they're threatened. Meaning, if they're, I mean, that's the thing, an animal will lash out automatically if it's feeling like that anything such as a predator or humans are possessing a threat, we're getting into their space. Something like an eland will, I mean, the fact that they will charge. Um, so when they say their horns spiral, they're not like a kudu horn where they kind of like they twist, but it's almost like if you see like a unicorn horn but longer and more thicker, but they kind of like have a spiral pattern. Um, but eland, I have heard and I've seen videos of them goring people. Um, but I've seen them gore lions too. Lions, you can't blame the lions because they're looking for prey. They're hungry. They want food. Now an eland, I feel like, I mean, a 1 ton animal would feed a whole pride, depending on how many there is in a pride or a group of lions. But I know an eland, a big antelope would, I mean, probably not as something as like a wildebeest, but something this big, this large would be able to feed a whole pride of lions easily. Um, but I will say eland are really they people. So when you watch African hunting shows, they are actually an animal you can hunt. Um, but in eland, as I said, I had a lot of these antelope. I was really surprised about. Um, and the fact there's actually one that says it's the most dangerous of all antelope, and you probably all know what it might be. Um, but the eland, as I said, is a lot larger, and it's the biggest antelope. But the thing is, they're only gonna charge and attack if, and as any animal would, they're doing it out of defense, out of being cornered, their space is being violated, or a mother protecting her young. But you always, even if you're out observing animals or you're learning about them, you learn about their behavior. You learn about there's a reason why this animal. I mean, you could be in that position someday of being attacked, and it's better to learn now than to learn later on. And what people don't fully, I feel like, get, that are too freaking naive to see, is that humans like to screw with animals, and these animals will give it right back, and that person could either be air flew to the nearby hospital, or by helicopter, or if you're out in the wood or out in the African savannah, I mean, a hospital could be miles from where you are, where you got attacked. Eland, I will say, especially protecting family, they're young, or feeling like they're cornered or wounded. I would not want to cross paths with this antelope at all. Um, but the next animal on our list is not an animal that will gore you, but you do not want to get whacked by this animal, meaning from the tail, or just dive in and consume the animal, because lions and other predators will get a mouth or even a good whack. But this is an animal that it's I call these animals that walk with artillery attached to them, and that is none other than the African crested porcupine. Now, these porcupine are the largest porcupine species. We have the American porcupine in the US, but you look at an African porcupine, they're on the ground, and they're obviously porcupines are they kind of like slumber along. They make these weird high pitched sounds, but porcupines are very territorial in the African savanna. But these porcupines, when they're fully grown, and those quills, so they have, I think it's 3 set of quills. I'm pretty sure they get thicker or the size grows. It's literally like an archer. So a lot of people want, this myth has been going on since, I don't know, for people state that porcupines shoot their quills. They don't shoot their quills. What they'll do is the African crested porcupine will rattle their quills, the tail quills. So when a nearby predator gets ready to charge or try to eat the or at least eat the backside of the porcupine like a lion, that porcupine's gonna shake that tail. They're gonna shake that. It gives the lion warning, but it's louder than a rattlesnake. And once that lion goes in, whack. But that's the thing, that lion doesn't even know, because the lions are gonna when they see something and it's walking slow, they're gonna think, they're locked on focus. They're like, we can have that. But a porcupine, you see a mouthful of quills in a lion. Quills that are a lot longer than our porcupines, which are about that long. But sometimes they'll even back up into, because they're covered in quills, and there's 3 distinctive quills on this porcupine. One, because sometimes they'll even thrust backwards and hit the lion. Or if the lion rushes in, he's going to get a mouthful of quills, or even a head full of quills. But what a lot of people know about porcupine quills is they barb. But I'm pretty sure the African crested porcupine, they've got multiple barbs, meaning that they're a lot harder to get out than the American porcupine's quills, where there's typically little barbs. These guys have barbs that and their quills are a lot thicker. And porcupines, the African crested porcupine, they can be territorial. I would say you can get away from them pretty easy than you would be able, like a hippo or a rhino or an elephant for that matter. But I wanted to put porcupines on this list because people get whacked by them. animals do, like our dogs. But sometimes predators don't know enough to leave a goddamn porcupine alone. Because that's the thing, when an animal or a predator gets them in the mouth, it's game over. But obviously, these quills are a lot larger and thicker. Um, but people often believe that porcupines shoot their quills, meaning they can shoot them out of their. But actually, no, they cannot. They're what they do, as I said, is when an animal is whacked, these porcupines will rattle like a rattlesnake. They'll give off a warning, and if that animal gets too close, whack. But I wanted to put a porcupine on this, or the African porcupine, because these animals just, they're and they're not looking to be eaten. I mean, unfortunately, it's like they're a walking shield of quills, or like almost like a, what you call it, like a magnetic field of quills. So even if an animal gets approximately like close to the camera like this, or like further back, when that porcupine rattles those quills, it's like hearing a rattlesnake rattling its tail. Next up we have, so I almost put this animal in on the list, but we have the zebra. Now the zebra, as far as cases go, I I will say I will not state that they won't attack people, but I've seen them go after lions on TV. Now it's typically the stallions that will charge lions, but and that's the thing, zebras have a really intense kick. So I would say any kick delivered by a zebra would break a lion's skull. I have heard of that happening, where because the thing is, zebras are, I mean, they're in the horse family, meaning that a kick from one of these guys would easily shatter a lion's skull. But I feel like the amount of force in a zebra's kick would be equivalent to, say, a domesticated horse delivering a kick to something as big as a Great Dane. But I will say I've seen zebras even nip at lions with their teeth. Like especially if the stallion is looking after the foal and the mom, because the thing is, a zebra herd is consisted up to the stallion and the rest of the herd. But if they're obviously, since they're preyed on by lions, hyenas, um, that's another thing too, is that the stallion, his role in the herd is to protect the herd from threats, from predators. And I've seen zebras. I mean, I've seen brutal kicks that like are pretty bad. Like, lions sometimes don't even come out of it. They don't even come out of a kick from a zebra because a lot of it could be a broken jaw. But I've also seen zebras, stallions. But the thing is, as they're fleeing, that back foot could just their kick is powerful. But I will say zebras are one of the animals I wanted to put on this list, but I'm like, another animal that actually is as common as a zebra, I feel like would inflict like 80 times that, forcible damage than a zebra. Because zebras, I feel like, can leave a lion with a broken jaw, with anything broken. Or if they decide to chase after, because that's what I see is a stallion, a male zebra, they'll charge or sprint at lions to make sure the foal and mom get away, or the herd gets away safely. But you can just picture what a horse could do to a freaking human. Obviously, horses that kick humans, usually those incidents are accidental, especially not knowing what you're doing or if you're in the horse's path. But one of the animals on the list can actually stop a lion's heart from beating. And we're not even at the list yet, so. But the zebra, I wanted to at least put on my honorable mention list because, as I said, I wanted the zebra to make the list, but I was like, no. Because the animal that you probably may have already guessed, I'm glad I put this one on the list rather than the zebra. But anyways, zebra, honorable mention. Next up, we've got the Nile monitor lizard. They are cousins to the Komodo dragon. These animals are dangerous in their own terms, I would say. Their tail especially is what gets me because they have this hard part on their tail. I would say throw a cowboy hat. Don't give this animal a whip at all because the tail is the crack of the whip on this animal. And their jaws are powerful too. They're when they clamp down on something, it's like a pit bull not letting go on a glove, or a German shepherd not letting go of a suspect. This animal would be on my list. If we could have any animal, I would say, on the police force that would deliver just as vicious of a bite as our German shepherd, the Nile monitor lizard would be on my. Even though their bite, like the Komodo dragon, is toxic, or obvious Nile monitor. If you really wanted an animal, especially a reptile, that was less larger than a croc to hold something down, these animals will clamp shut. And their tail has like a rough part, so it's so hard. But you get whacked with that tail. I've seen people get gashes along their arm, or not even gashes, but like opening, like worse than a whip, but gashes, meaning that your skin opens up from this animal's whack of its tail. It's so powerful. Um, but the Nile Monitor is on honorable mention. Not because it's not dangerous. It's dangerous in its own, I feel like its own skill set. Chasing prey, feeling threatened, yes. Or you're trying to handle the animal and you're unexperienced, things like that can happen. So our last honorable mention. Now, I feel bad. I did put this animal on my list because it's the world's deadliest snake in Africa. Actually, it's Africa's deadliest snake. But I've heard this snake having enough venom, and actually tribes will use this snake's venom because it to kill an elephant. If you had blow darts with the venom of this snake, you could bring down an elephant. But it's none other than the black mamba. It's the most venomous snake in Africa. They are typically black in color. But their venom has their bite has enough venom to kill an elephant. And these snakes, when they are spotted, do pose a threat because villages or tribes that inhabit these open savanna areas will die from these snakes because these snakes have the venom to kill a person and enough to kill an elephant. The reason why they didn't make it on my list is because I feel like with this snake, yes, I will say this snake, I would definitely put this in the list as like any of these honorable mention animals go. But the black mamba is on this list because on the mentions list because typically people know how to dispose of these animals, or for that matter, release them appropriately away from threatening areas where there's villages, tribes, that share their habitat, humans sharing their habitat, because they know this animal can be a threat and it can kill a whole village if not handled. Like most of these animals on this list. But I'm gonna go grab a drink and then we'll start on the list. All right, guys. So so our first animal is another antelope, but we have the bush buck. Now the bush buck, I've heard, I've seen videos of this on YouTube. They're not a very large antelope. However, people hunt these antelope, and typically they will use dogs are a method that people in the bush use to track animals like a bush buck. But unfortunately, some dogs and humans don't get out of the forests, meaning that it could be a bush buck that felt defensive, felt cornered. Because that's the thing. Same thing with any kind of animal. If cornered or if surrounded by predators, it's going to attack. It's going to defend itself. But bush buck are known to kill dogs. As I said, only if the dogs corner it. Because hunters are typically, once they hear that dog bark or those dogs pick up the scent of this animal, game on. Um, but if as I said, 2 to 3 dogs corner this animal goes full throttle. I mean, they're docile, but I mean, these bush buck are quick too, meaning that they would be able to impale. I mean, a horn going right through a dog would kill the dog. Um, but as I said, they're not as big as you would. I mean, eland are the biggest antelope in Africa. But bush buck, I'll show you guys what a bush buck looks like. Um, yep. They're not very large. They're a medium-sized antelope, though. There's also the Cape bush buck. The males have spiraled horns. So males can weigh up to 40 to 80 kilograms, which is 90 to 176 pounds. Only males have horns. Um, so yeah, it says here that males are they can be highly dangerous, with males capable of fatal attacks on actually humans and dogs. So as I said, hunters using dogs more as tracking. Again, just like what I said about an animal feeling, because when an animal's cornered, they're feeling. Obviously, it'd be like us if we're feeling cornered by a group of people, that are, wanting to harm. Any animal is going to act out of defense. But if this animal is injured Or it says here startled, meaning we startle this animal unexpectedly, then yes. But it says they're typically shy. But cases of attacks reported are are usually during hunting or when they feel threatened, leading to rare but severe injuries. It says fatal injuries. Their horns can cause fatal wounds, with at least one reported instance of a 70-year-old farmer being killed by a bush buck. Wounded wounded bush bucks are notorious for attacking hunters and trackers, making them a dangerous albeit small species to hunt. But according to African safari journals, um, they are considered one of the more dangerous antelopes to encounter on foot due to their unpredictable nature. But as I in they're a medium-sized antelope, it says so, not like our eland that we had in our honorable mentions. But I chose the bush buck to be number 12 because I did read things that like bush bucks were, because for the eland it was different. Like eland, I feel like can be dangerous unless you provoke them. Any kind of animal you provoke them, but it specifically said about the eland if it was protecting their young, that's when they turned more aggressive. But bushbuck, since people, I mean, that report we just read about the 70-year-old man that got killed, um as I said, that's the thing, is if you startle an animal and they're unexpecting it, or you happen to be in proximate close to the animal, if you don't realize that that animal will take that as a threat, will take that as um but our next animal is number 11. It is the wildebeest. Now wildebeest are considered and known to be, they're described as the poor man's buffalo. um Now, wildebeest travel in herds and they migrate, which is very important. Many reasons I feel like lions, I feel like wildebeest, they travel in big herds too. But I feel like any lion or lions that intervene with a herd of wildebeest either will get trampled, meaning that clashing of hooves, a stampede of wildebeest, lions get in the middle of that, they're crushed. And wildebeest are aggressive when during, they also go through rut as well and things like that. So rut is another way. It's basically when an animal's testosterone level spikes, like, increasingly high, making the animal much more predictable. But deer, the whitetail, moose, they they go through that as well. So wildebeest, I will say, I feel like out of any animals, you get trampled by a herd of wildebeests, it's gonna suck. Your body is gonna be so crushed that like it could be scattered in that one area of being trampled. But lions, I feel like will get a horn or get launched up in the air. But wildebeest are the poor man's buffalo. They travel in herds like buffalo do, but they're much more faster. And I feel like they will not, I will say, they are a formidable prey for lions. They're one of the many animals lions, hyenas, other animals go after. But wildebeest, I feel like can have a bad rap with things like lion, especially if it has to do with defense, the having a lion go airborne 15 feet in the air, dropping to the ground. Um, Number 10. So this is the second antelope I saw on the list. It is not the most dangerous, but it was next to the most dangerous, and that's the sable antelope for number 10. Now, sable antelopes, I love these antelope. They're great for hunting, and they have the scimitar horns which curve back. But these animals are very they use them to spar with other males, but they also use them against predators as well, like lions. And again, they're an animal that will gore lions and charge at them. And if we become a threat, these animals will also charge as well. But sable antelope, I don't know much about them. I want to keep learning about these antelope because they're very unique in their pattern. Um, wow. So mass is 500 pounds for an adult. So when cornered, they do not flee, but instead face predators using their sharp horns to cause serious injury or death, particularly to lions. Um, and during sparring, during combat with another male, they're highly territorial and aggressive toward one another, engaging in intense fights for a dominance. Females also exhibit high rates of aggression and establish strict dominance. Danger to humans, they can be aggressive towards people and are known to be dangerous, particularly when they feel threatened. So, and it says they might even act aggressive towards other herbivores, other species that are herbivores. But scimitar shaped horns, yeah. But there is the sable antelope. So number 9, we have, so I put two different animals on this list. I have hyenas and hippos. Now, hyenas, I would say, as far as bite force between a lion and hyena, hyenas are the very first animal I think of when it comes to bone crushing bite force, and not so much a crush, but a clean break on his skull. On a buffalo skull, for that matter. I will say I've heard less. I mean, it could be even, but I mean, as far as attacks on humans by between hyenas and lions, I've heard a lot of like things I would say a lot more. I feel like I've heard from lions than hyenas, but it doesn't mean hyenas won't attack people either. Because there's one guy that lives in Ethiopia, but they call him the hyena whisperer. And this actually was, I mean, this was through his family, but his dad became the hyena whisperer, then he did, and then he passed it down to his son. So it was a family lineage. Um, but tourists that venture into this village that often want to meet him, he'll take them out at dark, and he will call in these hyenas, and they will feed them with putting it leftover scraps of meat from the butcher, collecting them in a basket, and he'll kebab them with sticks, and he'll have the end of the stick in his mouth, and the hyena will take the meat from the other side of the stick. Wild hyenas. Now, hyenas are one of those animals that I still wouldn't want to screw with. I mean, they share food with lions. I mean, yes, I mean, the thing is, they're one of the only animals on the planet that can drive a pride of lions off a kill. Whereas vultures clean, the hyenas come in numbers and dominate a kill. I feel like between the hyenas and the lions, lions have more of the forceful authority, whereas hyenas have the presence of giving lions fear, especially if lions are feeling outnumbered. If there's two lions, maybe three, and they feel like they're outnumbered, the lions will back down away from the kill, and the hyenas will close in on the kill, what the lions didn't eat. But hyenas as well are not related to canines. They had their own family, but they dig burrows um in the open plains as their homes. Um but a group of hyenas is called a clan. It's led by a female, the queen. Um, but hyenas are, I mean, there's different species of hyena, but spotted hyena, and there's also the brown hyena, which they inhabit more of the desert and dry places of Africa, like the Sahara. Um, but the brown hyenas are way more rare to see. They hardly ever come out. But I would say hyenas for me are one of the animals that can really dominate and bring down two big African cats off a kill, which is remarkable to see. Um, I mean, a good example of this is, I mean, I hate to even throw this. I mean, The Lion King, one of the probably best Disney movies on the planet. I mean, as far as the original goes, you have a bad lion. I mean, a lion being the brother of Mufasa that leads a clan of hyenas. But as far as hyenas go, their bite force is stronger than a lion's too, which not a lot of people know that. But just like how humans can bite through a candy bar, something that's solid, hyenas can do that to a buffalo skull as much as we can bite through a candy bar. So, yeah. Hippo. So the next one is hippos. Now, hippos, yes, people consider them the most deadliest animal in Africa. They could be. They very well could be. I mean, I feel like they kill an estimated of any other animal people every year in Africa, but my question about hippos is when we go in canoes and we see a pod of hippos, that's the thing. That's what I feel like sets a hippo off, especially the bull, because every pod of hippos are led by a bull. It could be two bulls. Well, actually, there's typically a young bull and there's an old bull hippo in a pod, and a bunch of females, and maybe some babies. But I will say, danger, yes, high level of danger. Killing just to kill, or killing that, I would say doubtfully no, because hippos, as I said, a lot of the aggression I hear about from hippos and I've observed is about territory. When we enter a hippo's territory by just kayaking or canoeing by them, and the bull is aware of a canoe going by. He's going into full. He's going to go into full territorial mode. He's going to tell us to leave that river. But typically, what I see is, because hippos are incredibly fast in the water, and when they submerge, these animals are heavy, and I mean, yes, I feel like the same thing when you hear them about, attacking crocodiles. It's because those crocodiles, and a lot of the reasons crocodiles will enter territory with hippos is because of the babies, is because of the young. They're much more easier to pick off than a fully grown adult. But I feel like most attacks occur with hippos in the water, people being in the water with them, canoeing, fishing, and they're right there by the hippos, maybe a yard away. But unfortunately, why hippos, I feel like, attack? It's through territory. There's no other element, whereas something that uses primal instinct in hunting, like a croc, enters territory of a hippopod, is going to get killed. I mean, hippos have the strong to bite force to snap a croc in half, but a canoe is not going to be any harder for them to break. But again, hippos, I feel like when people are killed, it's because the territory is not met. When we enter a hippo's area of, really their personal bubble, their territory, we violate that bull, that lead bull, that older bull is going to react, because hippos might be able to swim faster in the water, but they're not animals that can't freaking charge at you on land either. I mean these animals run as fast as a horse. And for like short, what is it, bursts, as up to 45 miles per hour, that's fast for an animal on land. Um but our next animal, I'm quite excited to share this one. Now, not, I would say, the opposite of the zebra. This is another well-known animal in Africa. I can't think of any accounts with people being involved, but predators, absolutely. But when we think of Africa, we don't necessarily think of the heaviest animal as far as mass, but by height. with a neck of a wrecking ball and legs of stilts, the only animal I can think of is the giraffe. Now, giraffes are beautiful animals. Um, and they're probably one of the most signature, most, I would say, incredible animals to see on safari. However, when giraffes deal with animals like lions, giraffes, I will say, and I've heard this actually happen, that a giraffe kick can make a lion's heart from not to beat, meaning that a lion's heart won't beat. Now again, when I talk about power and crushing force between a kick from a zebra and a giraffe, I mean that in two different meanings, because a giraffe, they don't want, okay, so like how you see somebody boxing, right? You don't see somebody's arm go all the way back. They have to be ready to throw the jab or a craw, whatever. But a giraffe, think about a man winding his arm, right? Or less tempted to swing his arm all the way back and boom. Now, this animal can send a lion flying distant, and the lion comes in, giraffe gets because the thing is, lions will jump on the giraffe, and that giraffe's leg, boom, and that's gonna send a shockwave, like it's gonna be like a just shooting the lions off. But a good kick from a giraffe will stop a lion's heart from beating. If we were to freaking go up and hit a giraffe, that giraffe would have the same power. But I think if for us it would be a lot worse. Just like for lions, it would be lights out. But giraffes are really awesome animals because their long tongue, and these animals have like a superpower. Their tongue is so rough that they can eat, even like what is like eat these plants that have thorns attached to them, and it doesn't like affect them. Like they can digest these without having any issues. But a lot of people state that giraffes aren't fast. Well, they're not fast because look at their legs. They look like they're on four-legged stilts. But as I said, anything I mean, those stilts are weapons too, especially to a lion that wants to freaking jump on the back and try to bring that animal down. When that giraffe kicks out, or if the lion misses the grab, he's going to get either a leg to the chest. I mean, these animals use force, and when they push with their leg, that lion is going to get a like, it is just, it's so brutal. It really is. The force of kick this animal has is unbelievable. Number 7, we have the Gemsbuck. Now, the Gemsbuck, also known as the Oryx, are the world's dangerous antelope. There's actually folklore and myth out there that, and I read this because obviously there's a species called the Arabian Oryx, which are white. But this is an animal that actually saw all phases, was extinct, was vulnerable, so all phases of the going through extinct and being born again. Like, it went all through those phases, all 5 phases. But it came back from extinction, which is unbelievable for any species. It's the only animal. But Gemsbuck are dangerous in their own way. I mean, these animals will, I mean, their horns, they will thrust forward. As you were to if you were to thrust forward with a spear, these animals do the same. I mean, they're the antelope that have spear like horns that can inflict damage. I mean, kill a person. They're known to attack people, but fatally killing people. If it's, if it's a mom with her calf, that's another red flag with Gemsbuck, is they will do anything. Or, as you know, if they're wounded or sick, they'll impale predators too. A lion, having being stabbed to death by, it happens, but most fatalities are inflicted with lions, where the horn will, when the Gemsbuck thrusts forward, it's like if you were to throw a spear at a buffalo. Imagine that, this animal piercing a lion and the horn going out the other side. These animals are the antelope that I feel like I want to call them the antelope that wield two spears on their head. But they're, as I said, even, what is it? The fact that there's like Hebrew folklore out there that Gemsbuck were actually at one point known to kill a lot of people, and for the violent, and not for, it was something I had read, but they explained it, they did it for the, what is it, out of, I mean, they're dangerous, but there's myths that say that they did it out of anger. And honestly, I would say there's truth to that because when animals like deer, antelope go into rut, that's when the behavior. I mean, elephants go into something similar called must. I mean, they're more aggressive. But we'll talk about the big five tomorrow after a program. But number six is the baboon. Now, baboons are on my list for many reasons. There's actually a documentary on YouTube about baboons ravaging through homes, stealing babies, um, killing children. But there was a troop of baboons in this. It was in Ethiopia, I believe. But it talked about this one troop of baboons that had so much of an effective range on a village, but killed many children who would venture outside, kill babies, like steal babies from houses and kill them out in the bush. But it was bad. It was like a massacre. I would not, definitely not let if you have young kids, do not watch it. I mean, it's crazy. Baboons will even go into convenience stores, and I mean, and some owners will allow that. Have baboons come out with snacks. They'll raid cars. They'll even sit on top of cars. But when a baboon opens their mouth, that's when the whole like, oh, curious creature goes into like, yeah, I'm not screwing with this animal. Especially the males. A bite from that animal, I couldn't imagine how that would have hurt. I think it would be just as bad as the Nile monitor bite. Maybe, I mean, I would say maybe worse. But the canines, baboons, I mean, that will either be a broken arm, it could be your head being. I mean, I don't know for sure, but baboons are known to take kids from villages, um, and even get really aggressive with people, ransack houses, kill livestock, things like goats. But yeah, I put baboons on this list, on the list specifically because of the primitive nature these animals have of being one of the animals that can go in a village undetected, wreak havoc, call in the troops, taking whatever they can find. As I said, that includes infant babies or little kids. And the fact how, I mean, these animals are quite strong too. So, and they're smart. Do not ever underestimate a baboon. But we'll talk about Africa's Big Five tomorrow when I get home from program. But have a great night.